You're listening to the Lunchbox here on CHSR FM 97.9 in stereo. I am your host today. I am Mark the Caffeinated, but I'm joined by a room full of people. I got to check my notes here to make sure I know who all these people are. I know at least one. He's been here a couple of times representing the Lung Association. That is Arthur Thomson. Arthur, say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Get a good level on you there. Also joining us today, beside you, is a young woman named Krystal Freake.
Hello, everybody.
That's a very unique name. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And alongside you is Carman Hamilton. Say hello, Carman.
Good afternoon.
And so we get some good voices here. I'm looking forward to hearing your stories. Now, you all have remarkable stories about one of the reasons that brought you to the Lung Association. And one of the things we're looking forward to and trying to promote here is the Bike for Breath next weekend. First, Arthur, could you just outline what the Bike for Breath is very, very quickly?
Sure. This is our 4th annual Bike for Breath, actually. It is a charity bike ride. We have 3 routes ranging from 17 kilometers to 60 and then a 125. It's our first year for such a long route.
Ooh.
And I drove it this weekend, and it is a long route. But it's great. It includes like bridges and scenic views of the river and the rural areas, so it's going to be a great ride.
I've got to think, too, that having it in the fall is nice because all the colors start to change.
That's right. And when I was driving the route, I could see they were starting to change, and I expect it'll be full-on color by next Sunday.
We might have to have sweepers out pulling the leaves off the route as well.
That's right.
Carman, what drove you to this particular thing? You have a very specific association with the Lung Association, to use the word twice, and that is because you've gone through a very amazing procedure. I understand it's a double lung transplant?
Yes, I had double lung transplant a year ago, February.
Really?
Yeah, and I did my first Bike for Breath last year, 7 months after my transplant, and I actually, surprisingly, was not that sore the next day, so I was pretty pleased with that. So I'm trying to do what I can to give back because I've been very, very fortunate with my transplant.
That's pretty amazing. How long was that procedure? Was it something like was it a very, very long procedure or done in stages?
No, it's when you go in, it's they wheel you down the hall to do one lung at a time, and I was 10.5 hours in surgery.
Wow.
And I was in the hospital for 15 days, and 3 days later I was walking on a treadmill.
Wow.
No, we should say, though, Carman, that it took a long time to get to that point, too, though, right?
Yeah, I was diagnosed actually in 2008 with what's called idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, which is basically lung disease with no known cause. And just going for a physical to my doctor, they picked up on some scar tissue in my lungs, and then I went to a respirologist, more tests, and they determined that it was lung disease. And so my lung capacity kept dropping right through until September 2011, and then I got a flu, and my lung capacity was down below 40%, so I had to go on oxygen 24/7. And then the following March, I went to Toronto to be assessed for a transplant. Luckily, I was a candidate, so I moved to Toronto, and I waited for 8.5 months to get lungs.
So it's one of those ones like hurry up and wait, but then at the same time, it's all over very quickly. 10.5 hours doesn't feel like much after that enduring ordeal, I imagine.
Yeah, it was the 8.5 months. I kind of went pretty much downhill prior to the operation. I could dress myself. That was about it. I was on 15 liters of oxygen, which is equivalent of breathing 70% oxygen.
Wow.
So it was... I really couldn't do anything. Thank goodness my wife was there to support me. So,
now, were you a bike rider beforehand? Obviously, it'd be a few years before the last year. But did you ride your bike before? Was that something you did, or?
No, not really. Other than just recreational bike here, bike there, once in a while. But I've been fairly active in my life. I played old timer hockey and golfed and. So I was in reasonable shape, which really helped me with the transplant. It helped my recovery and going through the surgery. And I think afterwards, getting back, it's so critical once you've had a transplant. It's the heart that drives everything to keep the lungs healthy and just being active. So I've been very fortunate, and Actually, Tuesday I went with the folks on Spokes group and did 36K on a bike ride. So whatever I can do to try and help awareness and help raise funds, because it's quite a journey.
Oh, it's an amazing journey, and congratulations on your recovery, because obviously not only did you come to it with the full appreciation of what you were getting, but also you came out of it with the full strength of really tackling the issue afterwards. Like really being back on the treadmill that quickly at first is amazing, but then I can't imagine how you, like, were you training for the ride last year for several months, or did you know from the time you got out of the room that I'm gonna do this?
Actually, I rode around the block with my wife the day before twice, and that was it.
Wow. Well, that's an encouraging thing, because it also, I think it would encourage other people to join in. It sounds a little intimidating to be that long a race, or that long. I should say it's a ride. It's not a race, really. There is some pride taken by people by the time that they make. I know friends of mine have participated before, and they were kind of challenging themselves as well as anything else. But it is a ride for support as much as anything else, and certainly an exercise for those lungs of yours.
Absolutely.
Now, Krystal, what brings you to this? I understand that this is more you looking to the future and saying, I need to have this support.
It is, because I have cystic fibrosis, and it does affect my lungs just as much as Carman. And I had a friend in the past who had a double lung transplant and actually had a second one. Excuse me, and unfortunately she passed away. So doing this for me is kind of in memory of her and in support for my future.
What can you say about cystic fibrosis for those who don't know what it involves?
It's basically an excessive amount of mucus in the lungs. It is thicker than normal, so it's a perfect place for bacteria to grow, and you get recurring infections. I had a period, my fourth year university, where I was hospitalized every 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow.
It started as a cold, head cold, anything like that would just trigger. And within days, my cough would increase, just like anyone with your average flu.
Mm-hmm.
And but then my oxygen levels would go down, and I would have to be hospitalized. And that's a regimen of 14 days minimum of IV antibiotics.
Wow. So
for 3 years, I was in and out 6 to 8 weeks.
And like you said, that started for you in university, so it struck you very young.
Yeah, and I mean, I've had it for my whole life. You're born with it. I was diagnosed when I was about 2.5. I'm
Wow.
very fortunate that I was very healthy. My mom's a nurse. She read up a lot on it. My dad, he's in paramedicine. Same thing. So between the two of them, I was very lucky and had a great childhood to have those parents look after me so well. And I got involved in sports very early. I played soccer, I did dance, I swam, I played baseball, I play softball, I golf, I play hockey. And I try to do as much as I can, and it keeps my lungs strong. The doctors have told me that after those 3 years of consistent hospital admissions, they're not sure why my lung capacity hasn't lowered more than it has, because it should have, with every 6 to 8 weeks,
Right.
and how much stress on my lungs, it should have gone down quite a bit. But they're assuming it's probably related to the sports.
Well, and that's one thing I'm hearing very clearly from both of you, is that keeping active is a very, very important to keeping your lungs healthy.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it should be that. It's not rocket science at that point to know that, the harder you're working your lungs, like any muscle that you have in your body, the better off it will be. But why do you think it's so difficult for us to really get that message? Or why do you think it's so difficult that we just don't exercise like we should? Any thoughts on that? Or what drove you to do the exercising? Was it just for fun, or was it a bit of the thought about exercising your lungs?
A bit of both. My parents drilled it in my head that it was a good thing. With CF, we're encouraged to do chest physiotherapy. So at home, when I was younger, my parents would either use a machine, a little device, or they would pat on my back so it removes the secretions from your lungs. Same thing with sports. It makes you cough. When you cough, something comes out. So it was encouraged that way, but also it became something that I was totally obsessed with. Hockey, I live, breathe hockey. I played actually here at UMB with the Women Red Blazers for 2 years, and now I play with the City Hockey League with the women. and I'll play as long as I can until I can't.
Is there going to be a point, like, is it going to be one of those things where you are kind of fighting time, and is that something, because you said, like, you're looking forward, or not looking forward to it, but you're looking into the future and saying there is a point in which I'm not going to be able to use these lungs anymore, and I'll have to have them replaced.
Yeah, and I didn't really start thinking about it until I saw others around me who were in the same situation, and really starting to go through that process, whether it was the just going to Toronto and speaking with the doctors and the evaluations, and just out of, I guess, more precautionary, the social workers and the psychologists with the cystic fibrosis teams that I see in Halifax, they just talk about it with you, and they ask you your thoughts, and recommend that you see psychologists just on a regular basis, not because there's anything wrong, but just to chat about things, and what are your thoughts about the future, how do you think you're going to feel, and just talking about it makes a big difference. Because
it's a heavy weight, and I don't want to use the pun in a way, but it's a heavy weight on your chest to carry around, quite literally and figuratively in this case. And I think that's important to let people know this, because I think a lot of people either they internalize it, they take it to themselves, they put it on their own shoulders, but they don't want to bother anybody with it, or they feel like they're a burden. And it's important to let people know that, no, you have to get help. You have to have the friends and family and professionals around you.
Yeah, and that happens a lot with not just cystic fibrosis, but any sort of chronic disease. We build this kind of hard shell that we take it all on ourselves. You don't like to bother other people. We don't want pity, or I don't anyway. And we try to do it all on your own, but it does definitely help to just the offer of help from other people.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a core of strength. Obviously, you have to build it up inside yourself, which is part of what other people provide to you. But yeah, I think that it's important to reach out. The Lung Association is one of those organizations there to help Arthur. What can the Lung Association do to help facilitate folks like these?
So what we do in particular that's especially relevant to the Bike for Breath is, like, the funds that are raised this weekend go to support two programs, and both of them are related to directly helping people. The first one is our asthma camp for kids, where children who have moderate to severe asthma and can't take part in normal summer camps have the ability to come and experience that. But there's also medical staff there, and they run sessions on how to control their asthma properly, how to reduce the amount of Ventolin and everything they need to take. So it just teaches them control, all in the fun of a summer camp. And then the second thing is our lung transplant support program. So as Carman alluded to, many people have to move to Toronto when they need a transplant, and I believe you have to be within 2 hours of the hospital.
You have to be within 2 hours, and the wait period can be anywhere from a week to there are friends of ours that we've met that have been waiting 2 years for a transplant and are still waiting. So it's very financially burdening, as well as your health. You're deteriorating, and
you need to have somebody with you. So it's not just taking care of yourself, but
you have to have somebody. You can't do it yourself. You're just physically not able to do it.
Yeah. So what we provide there is we do have a financial stipend to assist to help fill the holes somewhat. But then we also have a resource book that walks through all the sort of bureaucratic sides of things you'll need to go through. It has fundraising ideas and instructions, what to expect. So there's that side of it. But then there's also an online Facebook group that we manage, and transplant patients and their families will become members, and it's a venue for them to share their stories and share tips or ideas with each other and help each other through it.
Now, am I correct, Carman, you've also written about this experience of yours, or you have a book out, I understand? Am I right?
Nope.
Oh,
no,
okay.
not yet. I have a blog.
You have a blog, okay.
That's my wife did when we went through our journey, and there's 2 or 3 people, friends of ours, that have blogs, and it's been useful for other people that have, if they're starting down the journey, they can sort of see what happens, and we've really developed quite a close relationship with other transplant people, and it's as Arthur mentioned, the support group that they have organized. It's really important talking to other transplants, because someday you wake up and you're kind of I can't remember stuff. My short-term memory's gone. What's wrong? And you talk to other people, and they say, well, I get the same problem. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Well, then I don't feel so bad. And it's just, you deal with different issues. You deal with people getting infections and rejection stuff. It's going to happen, and it's nice to have a support group with you that have gone through some of that to help you. It really is important.
Krystal, have you reached out through social media to your friends? You mentioned that some of your friends had actually passed away having this as well. Is that one of the support groups you find? Is social media, or is it in person that makes a difference for you still?
A bit of both. Facebook is a huge thing. I mean, we've been posting for support especially for this event numerous times since I registered, and I'll get personal messages, or when I see someone the next time, they'll just ask how am I doing, or anything related to health. So it kind of brings people back and makes them curious and ask questions. And even friends that I have who are not super aware of everything that goes on with cystic fibrosis or anything lung related, sometimes ask questions. They get curious. So it's a great way just to make them aware of what goes on and what kind of future that I'm looking towards.
A long and very busy future, I suspect.
Yes, very much so.
Well, thank you both for being here. We're just about out of time, but I do want to let people know how they can find out more about the Lung Association and the Bike for Breath this weekend. Arthur?
Yeah, this weekend you can pre-register for the event at bikeforbreath.ca. There's also lots of information there about the event and how you can donate. I would encourage anybody that's available in the Fredericton area that wants to ride to come on down. Even if you can't register beforehand, you can walk in. If you can't participate, if you go to find participants, you'll see personal fundraising pages there from both Carman and Krystal, and you can make a donation through them and help. I would add that both of them have ridden in the past, and both of them won awards for their fundraising as top fundraisers the year they were there too.
Well, let's hope that people support them again and get that records going again.
Yeah.
Carman, is that blog still active?
Yes, it is. And you're going to ask me what it is, and I can't tell you.
If they go to the Facebook page, will there be a link there potentially to the blog?
I'll put it up this afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll find it.
And that Facebook page again?
It's Facebook/Bike for Breath.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Krystal, any place that people can get a hold of you, or is that the best way, through that Facebook group?
There, or actually I work here on campus down at the Curry Center at the front desk. So anyone who wants to stop in, I have pledge sheets. Want to come have a chat, anything like that. I'm usually free, so whether through that or Facebook is usually the easiest.
And I want to mention that because you are younger, I think that there will be a lot of younger people who will be able to associate with you or have a better way of chatting with you. No offense, Carman. They might,
you think I'm an old guy?
There's a little more gray hair there. But it's important, I think, to find someone in your peer group as well to really talk to them about this.
Well, just one point I was going to mention, Mark. When I was in Toronto, the most interesting part, I'm 65. I just turned 65.
See, I wasn't that far off.
Yeah, I'm an old guy. And the most interesting and fun group were the people that were younger, in the 20s and 30s, who hadn't experienced as much life, and they were more upbeat. The older folks were more dragging around. So I hung out with all the young folks, and they'd call me Gramps now. So that's okay.
The fact that you've gone in this Bike for Breath, that you've actually gone through it, you're younger than I am, is what I want to say for doing that. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for being here again. This is happening next Sunday.
This Sunday,
the 28th of September, and people should be there really, really early. To be in line?
Well, depending, if you check the website, we have our schedule, but if you're the 125, you should be there by 11, and then for the other routes, you should be there around 12:30.
That's early for me on a Sunday.
That's right.
I guess for normal people, that's not so early. Thanks a lot, guys, for coming in.
And
Again,
Crown Plaza downtown.
Right, and I know there's an after event too to help celebrate for all the people who participated.
That's correct.
All the volunteers, because you have a big crew of volunteers as well.
Yep.
Helping out along the route. If you see them on Sunday and you're not really sure what's going on, maybe trace back the route and find the table. I'm sure you can still make pledges the day of if you want to.
Sure, and clap and cheer if you see bikers go by.
I think that's it.
Absolutely.
I've done that before. I think that they really appreciate it. And this year it won't be raining. That's the hope. I don't want to
Yay.
promise that for sure.
We have Mark's guarantee.
Oh no! Well, thanks a lot, guys, for coming in. We're going to leave with a piece of music here to give you guys a graceful exit from Owen Pallett's In Conflict album. Here is his song, "I Am Not Afraid."